So this is the first lesson for statistics. We're going to talk about random variable. Random variable are usually product of the statistics, or probability is the product of probability. So it's a product of a variable which is a product of chance. So example of variables product of chances is the chances of getting a jackpot in picking in lottery or in lotto. It's because it's a chance if you're going to win or to pick up the jackpot. So that's one example of a random variable. There are two kinds, the discrete and the continuous. The discrete variables are those variables that are whole number, and they are usually used or observable by counting. They could be identified by counting. But continuous are usually in decimal. It could be written in decimal, or it could be in decimal. It could be in whole number, but it also could be in decimal. It could be if a range, so from 4 to 6. So, and measurable. It should be measurable rather than countable. So example is the number for the discrete is the number of threes. It's a whole number. There's no 3 and 1/2 threes. There's only 4 threes. So there's no 4.5 threes. So if it could be counting. So 1, 2, 3, 4 threes. So the number of years also. For the continuous, one example is the height. The height could be in decimals. Your height could be 166.4 centimeters, or your weight could be in decimal. That's 3.5 pounds. So you're not heavy. So for the range, and it could also be measurable. It could be by measure. So next one, we're going to have an experiment or a situation. You're going to toss 2 coins, and you're going to find the random variable. Let x be the random variable for the number of heads. So we're going to identify the number of heads for every possible outcomes. So because there's 2 coins, which in one coin there is 1 head and 1 tail, and the other coin is the head and tail. So this is the first coin and the second coin. So possible sa first coin na head, for the just head, na pwedeng partner na rin dito is head sa second coin. Pwede siya head sa first coin, pero tail na sa second coin. Pwedeng lumabas sa first coin, tail, head sa kabila. Pwede rin dito na tail siya, tail din dito sa kabila. So the value of the random variable, we know that these are the possible outcomes. We're going to identify the value of random variable. The value of the random variable is the number of heads. So bilangin mo lang ilan ang heads dito. So that's 2. Ilang heads dyan? What's 1? Ilang heads? 1. Ilang heads dito? 0. Now, we're going to make the probability distribution. So it's a distribution, it's a table indicating the probability of each random variable. So the random variable are x. The probability for each is p of x. So ilan ang random variable natin sa problem number 1? That's 0, 1, at saka 2. So 0, 1 lang at saka 2. You could not write another one. So that's considered one variable in it. 0, 1 at saka 2. Those are the values of x, 0, 1, and 2. Next, what's the probability that ang lalabas is 0? So how many all in all? That's 4. So 4 yun siya. So the denominator is 4. So the answer here for the probability is fraction. It could be percent, but it's advisable. It's advised that you're going to have fraction. So ilan ang 0? So isa sa 4. So 1 out of 4. Ilan ang 1? 2 out of 4. Ilan ang 2? 1 out of. Ilan ang 2 dyan? It's 1 lang out of 4. So this is the probability distribution. So next one. This is there are 3 computers. So there are three computers. So let D represent the defective computer and N for the defective computer. So what you're going to do here is you're going to identify if saan dyan. So you're going to identify the probability of a defective computer. So since there are three computers were tested at random, she wanted to know the possible outcomes, how many of these are defective and how many are not. So what we're going to do is we're going to first identify the possible outcomes. The possible outcomes, because there are three computers. Sa first computer, pwede siya na defective, pwede rin hindi. So, pwede siya defective, hindi. Second computer, pwede siya defective, pwede hindi. Sa third computer, pwede siya defective, pwede rin siya hindi. So, the possible outcomes are, first computer, pwede siya N. Second computer, pwede siya D. Third computer, pwede siya D. So, you're going to list all the possible outcomes. So, again, N. Let's have D. Dito na siya, it's N. So, next, N, D. We'll change with N. And then, N and D. N, N, N. So, that's the first one. Next is, we'll have D in here. D, D, D. D, D, D. D, D, N. So, that's the sixth. D, N, D, D, N, N. I think that's all. So the possible outcomes, the number of possible outcomes is 8. So next, the value of random variable. So the value of random variable. So we're going to identify, because they are wanted to know the number of defective computer. So in here, X is for the defective computer, defective. So it's for D. So ilan ang D dito? So that's 2. Ilan dito? 1. Ilan dito? 1. Ilan dito? 0. Ilan dito? 3. Ilan dito? 2. Ilan dito? 2. Ilan dito? 1. So we'll make the probability distribution. So the probability distribution would be like this. X, P of X. What's the probability that it will be X? So ilan yung values? 0, 1, 2, at saka 3. So those are the values. 0, 1, 2, and 3. What's the probability? What's the denominator? Ilan lahat ng outcomes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8. So it could only be a probability distribution. Kapag i-plus mo yan lahat, the answer is 1. Kailangan na mas maliit rin ito dito. The probabilities mas maliit sa 1. Tapos kapag i-add mo ito lahat ng probabilities, the answer would be 1. So let's have this. So ilan ang probability na 0 siya? Ilan ang 0? 1. 1 out of 8. Ilan ang 1? 1, 2, 3. That's 3. Ilan ang 2? 1, 2, 3. That's 3. Ilan ang 3? Nag-iisa lang siya. So 3. So if to check this, kailangan na kapag i-plus mo yan siya, 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1, it's equal to 8. Kailangan na equal lang talaga siya. So 1. So 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1, that's 8 over 8. For this one, 1 plus 2 plus 1, that's 4. So dapat magkapareha sila ng denominator. Kapag hindi yan magkapareha, kapag ang total niya is lumpas, that's not a probability distribution. So that's it. Our discussion for the probability distribution and random variables.